Settle down, brother. This is the Quarter Report powered by ENCA.com. South Africa is a movie. Welcome to the watch party. Mkhwanazi, Julius Mkhwanazi, is somehow both South Africa's thirstiest and wettest man. And when I say thirstiest, I don't only mean the minimum 3.5 liters of water he drank yesterday at the Madlanga Commission, but that man is so thirsty for Cat Matlala. Get you a lover in your life who speaks about you the way that Julius Mkhwanazi speaks about Cat Matlala. Finally, this morning, he confessed to having a very close relationship with Cat Matlala, like brothers, and instantly, ENCA's Pule Letwiti-Jones pointed out, Julius Mkhwanazi said to Pule that he has no relationship whatsoever with Cat Matlala. But just to ram home the point, Julius Mkhwanazi said that he was praying for Cat Matlala to win tenders, that Cat Matlala had given him tens of thousands of rands over the years, that Cat Matlala was a dearly beloved to him, and that they had grand business plans into the future. And that's only half of what we're talking about, because also today, Police Minister on suspension Senzo Mchunu appeared at the Madlanga Commission for testimony and further cross-examination. We're going to tell you all about a lot of the repeated claims that he made, that he had already said when he appeared in front of the ad hoc committee in Parliament. The only place that you can watch the full show is on ENCA.com. The link is in the description if you're watching on YouTube. If you're there, give us a like and a subscribe. Also, if you're on YouTube, www.3benniesnetwork.com, because it's new merch day, people. Festive season merch day. James and I are both wearing new merch. James has got yo on the back. I've got South Africa as a movie. Welcome to the watch party. Also, we've already sold our first beanie. Isn't that incredible? Someone watching on YouTube yesterday heard that we'd start selling today and bought the green one this morning. So you can get TBN logo. It is ironically kind of cool. It's 3 beanies on a beanie. You can also buy all 3 beanies. Also, while we're here, I have other news. So Cape Town, we are, and by we, I mean myself and my dear friend and one of the best stand-up comedians in the country, Yasin Barnes, we are throwing a comedy show for you at the end of next week. 3 nights, the 11th to the 13th of December at the Homecoming Centre, the Avalon Theatre. It's going to be incredible. It's a live comedy show called 2025 What the Heck, as Tyler has said, which is basically us reviewing, recapping, and remembering the insane year that this mad country has had. Next week, at the end of the week, from the 11th to the 13th of December, go on Quicket or go on my Instagram and TikTok. The links are there too for 2025. What the heck? So Julius Mkhwanazi finally admitted to being friends with Cat Matlala, but not just friends. And for those of you listening to the show, not watching it, I'm going to describe what I'm about to do. When Julius Mkhwanazi was showing how close he and Cat Matlala was, he was clapping but not hitting. He was like pushing his hands together to the point of just before clapping to show how close they were. Like brothers, he said. He said that they, and this is the part where I'm like, you need to get a lover who talks about you the way that Julius Mkhwanazi talks about Cat Matlala. He was like, we got very close. We were texting every day. He was telling me about hard things. I was telling him about my troubles at work. It was literally romantic. It felt like their dynamic. And then eventually somebody said, has he been giving you money? And he said, no. Oh, except maybe like the odd dinner and maybe petrol, like 500 here, 1,000 there. And then Commissioner Selo, amongst others, were like, are you sure? And he was like, yeah, I'm sure. Maybe it was like 2,000 or like 3,000, but yes, I'm sure. And then Selo said again, are you sure? And he said, yes, I'm sure. And then Selo just whips out a bunch of payment transactions. And it turns out that 3 companies linked to Cat Matlala, one including called Cat VIP, and the other one is Medicare 24 Boksburg, had paid him in just 1 year, just 2022, sums to the total value of 70,000 rand. And Julius Mkhwanazi was like, yeah. That did happen.
I genuinely question whether any of these people understand the concept of bribery. Because I think that they have post-rationalized all of these crimes that they've done. You know, it's what Glynis Breitenbach said to Cat Matlala, which is like, do you understand you were bribing someone? Yeah. And Cat Matlala said, no, I wasn't. They said, no, you gave a police officer, in this case, police minister, money to change his behavior. That's a bribe. And he was like, no, it's not. And now the same thing's happened with Mkhwanazi, where he was like, no, he did give me money, but a family member had just died. It's like, okay, cool. But he still gave you money and you changed your behavior.
And at least with Cat Matlala, he had the audacity to say, I wasn't bribing. They were receiving a bribe. I was just giving money so that I got what I deserved. They were receiving and like getting bribes and being corrupt. But this guy, Julius Mkhwanazi, Timu in Mkhwanazi. So then Selo says, I put it to you that you were receiving 10,000 Rand, 20,000 Rand, 30,000 Rand, all these different amounts of money from Cat Matlala's companies. And Mkhwanazi said yes. And then she said, even the smallest stuff, you wouldn't give us specifics. Like you told us a family member died, but you didn't tell us who the family member was, when the funeral happened, where it happened, none of those details, so you're not very reliable. And then she says, and this was genuinely for me the most shocking part of the entire thing. Selo said to Julius Mkhwanazi, I put it to you that you were getting large sums of money from Cat Matlala's companies around the time that you were involved in these documents that were going to ultimately facilitate Cat Matlala's private vehicles getting blue lights, which is against the law. And Julius Mkhwanazi said, no, Cat Matlala was actually talking about giving me much more money than that. This was small money compared to the amount of money he was going to give me. He was talking about arranging a pension for me and a retirement, and we were going to go into business together. I was so excited to go into business with him. We were going to make so much money. In fact, and this is a direct quote, talking about himself and Mkhwanazi talking to Cat Matlala in the way that he phrased it, I was praying for you to win the tenders. So again, we have to believe that this man, Julius Mkhwanazi, is not committing crimes for dear beloved friend Cat Matlala, who's given him all this money, and clearly Cat Matlala has directly benefited from Julius Mkhwanazi's behavior, no matter how many times he calls it a foresight or an absence of judgment or not really paying attention. And now he's talking explicitly about how he was desperate for Cat Matlala to win tenders so that he could financially benefit from that in the future. Now, of course, he says that that's business deals and whatever, but like, James, I think Cat Matlala has now been dethroned because Julius Mkhwanazi is the most going to jail. At one point, Julius Mkhwanazi said something along the lines of, you can't expect me to hang myself. And I think people were laughing because they were like, bro, that already happened like an hour ago. Like that is over now. You are hanged.
This also just confirms to me the theory, at least optically, that Mkhwanazi is the sort of quote-unquote useful idiot.
Yes.
He is the person who is willing to go along and open the door to official processes, essentially. Yeah. And he rarely gets caught up in semantics. I have never read the abbreviation MOU and MOA as many times as I have in the last 2 days, and he got really stuck up on, did I sign this? Is it a forgery? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? And Madlanga himself, Justice Madlanga, was getting visibly irritated with Mkhwanazi, Julius Mkhwanazi, obviously, because he kept trying to dodge accountability for his actions by saying, I didn't sign it. Yeah. And then Madlanga goes, so this was specifically in relation to like mandating the cars. Like, so the whole scandal with the cars is the center of all of this, and then been incredibly murky about how it all came out based on what Julius Mkhwanazi has said, but it seems like his argument is the EMPD was underfunded, so they accepted gifts or loans from Cat Matlala, Cat VIP.
Well, freebies. And then they tried to accept the donation of the cars that never happened, but somehow those cars ended up registered with the EMPD fleet, meaning that they wouldn't, no one driving them with blue lights would get in trouble. And at one point again, Julius Mkhwanazi says that something's a forgery and then eventually admits that it's fully a real document.
Yeah.
But like,
and he had moments where he was like, oh yeah, I didn't sign that paper. However, I did hand it over to the relevant person.
Facilitated.
Yeah, like this, like we are just we're fighting semantics here. But what's confusing about it as well is that he doesn't even seem to stick to it. He like sort of fights semantics, and then someone on the commission slightly rephrases something, and then he totally commits to it.
Yeah, and I think that like the useful idiot comparison is apt, because he is fully not aware of how badly he's screwing himself. There are moments when he laughs or looks joyful or goes, yeah. And he's saying, yeah, to basically, you committed a crime. But he seems unaware that that is what he has just said. Like when he agreed that he facilitated getting Cat's cars registered with the MPD and so eligible for blue lights, it was extraordinary. People were just like, what are you doing, man? And then we should also talk about the torture allegation. So if you didn't watch the show or listen to the show yesterday, basically, and it always happens in Brakpan, and I don't want to be unfair or stereotypical, but in fact, I think the people of Brakpan should take up a new campaign called Why Always Brakpan. But basically, a robbery suspect went at a warehouse in Brakpan, got caught, allegedly got tortured and was killed in the process of being tortured. And according to an anonymous witness, Julius Mkhwanazi arrived at the scene, told them to get rid of the body by throwing in a dam or down a mine shaft, and that witness actually went and did it, like actually did that on his instructions. So Julius Mkhwanazi, under further questioning, said that he got a call between like 2 and 3 in the morning from a Yaku Hanekom, I want to say, like an informer. He rocks up early hours of the morning on the scene. Basically says he says that the information Hanekom had provided him was not good, said that he'd had his time wasted and left within 3 to 5 minutes. And so he said he didn't see any evidence of torture or malpractice, but that also post that there's no credible evidence of torture or malpractice or somebody dying. So that was the vast sum of only a half day of Julius Mkhwanazi. But let's just say South Africa's thirstiest and wettest man did more damage in a half day than I think he even did yesterday in a full day. It was crazy. Shall we quickly talk about Senzo Mchunu? So Senzo Mchunu, you may remember, in the ad hoc committee was purposefully dull, boring, and slow, trying to communicate basically there's nothing to see here energy to South Africa. And to be fair to him, there were repeated attempts by different politicians to get under his skin. And although he had bad moments, he was pretty unflappable at the ad hoc committee. Now, to be very clear, what I did not just say is that he's innocent. I just said he was unflappable at the ad hoc committee. And he came before Madlanga again today and repeated, I'm going to say broadly, 3 main lines of argument that he's been giving the whole time and first gave at the ad hoc committee. The first one, and the core one, remember, is that people say, including the head of legal at SAPS, say that the police minister has the right to make decisions on policy of SAPS, but not operations. That's the core argument, and that Senzo Mchunu overstepped his role by trying to get the PKTT disbanded when that's actually Fani Masemola, National Police Commissioner's role. Senzo Mchunu repeated the line that he feels that the police minister has the right to direct the National Police Commissioner on operations, not just policy. And he used quite a clever line that I don't think will hold up under scrutiny. But he basically said that no longer are we in the days of the police force being a law unto itself against the South African public. Now the police force is under the public control. And what he meant by that as a wink nudge was, remember the apartheid police did whatever they wanted to South Africans. And in the new South Africa, the police aren't a law unto themselves. They are under the control or direction of the people, which means the people vote democratically, get a majority party that then assigns a police minister who communicates and exudes the will of the people onto the police service. And while that's true, his sleight of hand was trying to make it seem like that means he has the power to meddle in operational matters, which by most legal scholars' approximations, he does not. But he tried to make that sleight of hand to say, I can't believe you're upset with me for this. I'm just enjoying the great fruit of our democracy that the police can't do whatever they want to us anymore, and I'm the will of the people stopping that from happening. But that's the first argument that he made. The second argument that he repeated, this time with more numbers and more specificity, is he said that the political killings task team, the PKTT, has got a myriad of complaints from civil society, whistleblowers, SAPS members and parliament about alleged human rights abuses. We've spoken in recent days, actually, about the allegation that Cat Matlala mentioned last week. He claimed, remember, Cat Matlala, that he had a meeting arranged by Becky Cele with Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi this time, not Julius Mkhwanazi, where Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi allegedly told him to go and make a complainant withdraw their complaint at IPID, the complaint being that complainant claimed that the PKTT had tortured them. So there is this running idea that the PKTT has been committing human rights abuses against people acting in shady ways. Senzo Mchunu said wearing balaclavas and other stuff that apparently the police just don't do. And so he repeated that claim, but this time with more specificity. So he hilariously said that Mary de Haas was one of the complainants. Probably not a good call there strategically, Senzo Mchunu, to bring up Mary de Haas as one of your star witnesses. But he said to the Madlanga Commission, I'm going to give you this brown envelope, lol. Why did you choose brown envelope? How dodgy do you want to make this look? Brown envelope with 8 names in it, and he wants the commission to interview those 8 people because he said that those 8 names are representatives of these complaints against the PKTT. And in the end, the Madlanga Commission said, well, they looked at it during the lunch break and they came back and they said, we're going to give this back. Not because it's a brown envelope, but we're going to give it back because we think you should go and talk to your legal counsel before giving us this. You can read into that what you will. But they clearly were thinking, I'm not sure you want to do this. I'm not sure you want to do this, Senzo Mchunu. And so now we have him claiming the PKTT has done bad things and been bad hombres. But again, we haven't moved forward in whether or not they really have. And the reason why I have such suspicion about this is maybe the PKTT has done bad things. But Senzo Mchunu has consistently said that the PKTT he wanted to disband for 2 reasons, interconnected. The first one being that their work was being doubled up on by other divisions in SAPS, and so they were inconsequential or irrelevant, and that he felt it was unjustified when there are so many different kinds of crimes in this country and victims of crimes to have a particular kind of crime investigated and taking up the time and resources of SAPS by 2 divisions or more. That's the first reason. And the second reason is tied to that because he said if they're irrelevant, the budget that we spend on them is unjustifiable and should be spent on helping other people with other crimes. That's been his core reason for disbanding the PKTT. So why does he keep bringing up that the PKT has done bad things? He's trying to reframe the narrative around the PKTT. And again, I don't know whether the PKTT has done bad things. Maybe they have. But Senzo Mchunu is bringing it up to try and reframe what we believe about the PKTT without it being an argument to disband it. Because the police has processes when their own members screw up. They have internal disciplinary investigations. You can take a police person to court. Like, they have processes. The initial torture complaint, if it exists, that Cat Matlala mentioned, went through the right channels if it exists. So just because they are complainants about some police doesn't mean you disband the unit. Imagine if every single time a handful of police officers in your neighborhood behaved badly, the consequence was, well, just disband them. But that's the reason why I'm deeply suspicious about Senzo Mchunu continually bringing this stuff up, because he's not giving us any evidence by which, or putting anything in the public record that we can do with. He's just casting doubt. And it's not strengthening his argument, his real argument. It's not contributing to his real argument about disbandment.
He's trying to leverage this perception of Mkhwanazi, which I think is not completely unjustified, to say that he is trigger happy and to say that he shoots first and asks questions later. He's trying to use that narrative about Mkhwanazi to apply that to the entirety of the PKTT and add on to that extrapolation that it's this like dark force. It's kind of like how people describe ICE in America. It's like, oh, it's above the law and, doesn't have oversight.
The difference with the ICE is we have evidence that they are like that.
No, totally. I'm saying this is the image he's trying to create, right? But he doesn't seem to stand on it fully. Because if I was him and I believed that, I wouldn't make another argument. I'd just go, yeah, they are evil. I don't feel like I need to defend this. Also, you can say that from the beginning. When you disband them on the 31st of December 2024, you can say
that's the reason.
This is the reason. That would be a big win, surely, ethically. So that is that. So it feels like he's sort of like feeling it out, right?
Yes.
It feels like he's going, yeah, this is and I think we said this about what he said in ad hoc. But
what argument's going to stick?
Yeah, and he came with even less evidence or less testimonials than he did now. He's trying to feel it out to say, yeah, this feels like this and this feels like this. And that's why he's gone on a multi-pronged approach, as opposed to just going, they were unethical, they were doing this, we should have cut them well before that as a result of that.
And completely agreeing with you, because he at one point today said systemic abuses within the PKTT. Now, if a unit has systemic abuses, that's something else. Then why wasn't that your reason to disband them then?
Yeah, you should have led with that.
More than that, brought them all between a police and commission of inquiry, subjected them to disciplinary hearings, potentially sent them to court for human rights abuses. Police can break the law. You didn't do any of that. Also, why not? Okay, let's talk quickly about the third thing that Senzo Mchunu was trying to push. As I just mentioned, he's saying that the PKTT is redundant because its work is being done by other departments. He feels it's morally unjustified to overly dedicate attention to certain crimes and neglect others. And he spoke about, in his view, the unjustified expenses of the PKTT. And by the way, this has just happened. Thank you to Bernadette Wicks for her live reporting. Okay, so he said, if we continue funding the PKTT the way it's happening, we are being insensitive to the scarce resources we have. And then he goes through a 12-month budget for the PKTT. So James, listen to this and tell me whether or not, and then think a little bit about what the PKTT has been investigating and the powerful people the PKTT has made very fearful, and tell me what you think. 40 million for subsistence and travel accommodation in a year, 15 million for food and beverages, 6 million for incidental costs, 1 million for laundry. Okay, that's quite a lot. 30 million for overtime and 440,000 rand for cell phones, which I assume also includes airtime. Stump calculations, that's 55, 61, 62, 92,440,000 for a year of the political killings task team. What do you think?
Well, has he provided how many people are involved in that? Because you'd have to divide it per person, surely.
Yeah, and also
you'd have to put it in context of the entire SAPS budget, because how much money is given to SAPS?
Exactly. In fact,
I'm pretty proud of that one.
even more than that. So this is what he just said. Madlanga asked Senzo Mchunu, have you compared the PKTT's costs or expenditure to other task teams? And Mchunu said, no.
So that whole point is completely mute.
Not mute, moot.
It should be muted.
Yeah, that's fair. I should never have spoken about it. Mkhunu's direct quote, we are dealing with the overall allocation of the budget, and I only complained about the management, the way we were managing the budget and allocating it. I did talk about less expenditure on detectives, on other enablers, so it was not necessary to be confined to a particular task team. It was spread. And then Madlanga says, so for all you know, the expenditure of the other task teams besides the PKTT could be significantly higher than the PKTT. And Mkhunu said, yes. So the man brought forward a budget. Maybe you think 92.5 million is too much for one task team. I would argue that 92.5 million for a year in which they have uncovered things about Cat Matlala, allegedly, the year in which they've uncovered things about Sibia, allegedly, the year in which they've uncovered things about the Big Five drug cartel, allegedly, the year in which they've uncovered all of this stuff and created 122 dockets that or like warrants, no, dockets, some of them with warrants in them that were so threatening that allegedly those dockets were taken away from them to stop them from continuing their work. And all of this has come from that. I would say 92.5 million is actually a bit of a bargain. It's a bit of a Black Friday deal as a return on investment for that. But even if you put all of that to the side, the audacity of Senzo Mchunu to not even tell us if this is actually comparatively relatively expensive. Or, you know, the way that any decent politician in South Africa, when they're complaining about wasted budget, they say this could have been this many RDP houses, this could have been this many streetlights. You color in what else could have been done with the 92 million. He didn't even say this could have created GBV fighting services or this could have created wada. You know, he's just giving us a number and hoping that we individual normal South Africans, for whom 92 million rand a year is an insane amount of money, will go, wow, that's an insane amount of money.
92 million rand is nothing in comparison to 2 billion, which is what Tembiso lost.
2.3.
2.3.
Yeah.
So, and
although, can I be cheeky for a second? All we needed in that case was Jeff Wicks, and I don't think he's being paid 92 million. Maybe he should. Maybe Senzo Mchunu, if you really want to pull on our heartstrings, say that 92 million will go to investigative journalists. Then we'll back it.